It's time for the Phil Ferguson Show.
This is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to The Phil Ferguson Show. It is June of 2024, and we've got a lot of stuff in this episode. A couple of the things that are coming up. I am putting in a replay, a best of episode or segment on long-term healthcare insurance. I was surprised how long ago I made this. I think it was 2017 or 2018. Oh, wow. I've been doing this for a few years. I kept meaning to redo that segment, to update it, put new numbers in it. But time is more limited now than apparently what I had 7 or 8 years ago. And I re-listened to it, and I think it still works. You know, the dollar values may have gone up and prices may have changed in relationship to long-term care insurance premiums and benefits. But I think it still stands, pretty darn well. One thing that I will add that is different now is that for most long-term care insurance, the deductible is usually 6 months, not the 60 or 90 days that I talked about in that segment. So that actually got worse for the average person. And what that means is you might have to be in a nursing home for 6 months before the long-term care insurance kicks in. And that becomes a very salient point when you listen to this segment. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I also have a little later in the show a rant on my adventure with diabetes type 2 and getting a glucose, what is it? A continuous glucose monitor, CGM, I think they called. And I'm not going to tell you too much about that here because I have a whole rant on how that went down. So maybe you'll enjoy that. Maybe you can relate. Tell me your stories, or tell me if you figured out some way to get around the bullshit that I had to deal with that caused the rant. Also in this episode, I know there's so much already. It is amazing you get all this for free, by the way. So if you want to help me out, don't send me any money. I'm good. Don't donate to me. Donate to some other particular, if you can, a secular activist of some kind or an organization. The other thing you can do is leave a 5-star review for me somewhere. That would be really cool. Anyway, back on. The next segment is a crowd favorite, church money. Someone sent me yet another financial statement information about a church, and I go through that for about 14, 15 minutes and explain where their money is coming from and where the money goes. And once again, very, very little of this church's money went to do anything productive to help people that are in need, that need food or a place to stay. It's really kind of sad and depressing because the common misperception in public, that, or at least people that I've talked to, whether they're religious or not religious, is that, well, at least a good chunk of the money donated to churches goes to help people in need. It does not. And I don't remember if I mentioned this in the church money segment, so I run the risk of repeating it here. If you have evidence to the contrary, send it to me. I've done multiple church money segments over the years. They all end up about the same. It is anywhere from 0% to a couple of percent, 2 or 3. This one might have been on the better side with a few percent that went to help, maybe. But anyway, and the last thing I want to cover just in the intro before we take our quick break, it's an electric or solar panel, I can't say solar system because you think of Mars and Venus and Jupiter. A solar panel update just for those who are interested, and this is just a short little thing. My newest bill for electricity in the Illinois house was $16.89. That is the minimum bill for a connection and having an account and a few pennies of tax on top of it. You pay that every month, whether you use 0 or 1,000 kilowatt hour of electricity. Boom. That's how that plan works for ComEd in the Chicago suburbs, at least in my Chicago suburb. So you're going to pay that no matter what, unless you disconnect from the power grid. Not something I'm interested in doing. Other people like the idea, but that's not for me. The most recent statement came in, and the panels produced 638 extra kilowatt hours. So the panels produced significantly more than what was used. The one thing to keep in mind, the nice thing for me with ComEd is that those extra kilowatt hours roll over to the next month and the next month and the next month. And so you get to carry them forward. However, once a year, they do zero out any extra kilowatt hours that you have. I'm pretty sure it's April 1st. It might be March 1st, but I think it's April 1st. So that's to prevent you from putting in a system that can produce more than you use, because then you're an electric producer, not an electric user. So all of this goes to the idea that you don't want to put in a system that's bigger than what you use. I mean, maybe you do, but you might not get all of the benefit from it that you thought you're going to get. And quick reminder, I've talked about before, in my Florida house, it's only $12.89, but if you don't use any electricity, they round up your bill to $30 anyway. So you're paying them for electricity you're not using. So overproduction in any given month, and or even the rollover of overproduction to the next month, can eat through at the rate of about $21 a month of your overproduction. Anyway, back to Illinois. In Illinois, the biggest months of overproduction are April, May, and then finally June. And a couple reasons for that is in the Chicago suburbs, March, April, May, maybe even a couple months in the fall, you get to a situation where maybe you don't use very much heat and or you don't use very much AC, air conditioning. But you could have days where you use heat one day and air conditioning the next day, but it's not a lot. But when it gets really hot, middle June, July, August, and even into September, not only do you use dramatically more air conditioning, which is expensive, but the solar panel production can go down with the heat. I think a quick rule of thumb is that you lose about 0.5% of production, and this varies by panel, so it's just round numbers, for each temperature over about 90 degrees. Keep in mind, over 90 degrees, I'm not talking about the air temperature. I'm talking about the temperature of the panels, which are often black and in the sun and on your roof. So the panels might be 140 degrees or more. So you could lose 25% of your production on a really hot, sunny day. Ironic, but here we are. That's just how it works. The highest months of overproduction in Florida are a little earlier, maybe March, April, May, because it gets hotter sooner. But back to the Illinois system, I put in a system that I had planned on it producing 75% of what I was using. The reason for that is that if you get over 100% because of the zeroing out process with Commonwealth Edison, any bigger system than 100%, I would be spending more money on panels and getting no money back. I could have gone to a 100% system and spent about 33% more. One of the reasons for the 75% system was that I always wanted to feel that pinch, that little bit of pressure to reduce electrical usage, not just from a financial perspective, but from an ecological perspective, if I'm paying something, I might be encouraged to use a little less electricity or find a way to do so. For the last 2 years, the Illinois system has produced 99% of what we used, not the 75% that I expected. The panels are producing what was expected, but we are using less electricity than we expected because we are not in the Illinois house all year long, because more time than not, I'm in Florida. We have other people watch our house, stay in our house. Not going to go over all the details, but so the house is still used, but not used as much, particularly by me, with computers and monitors in my office. And of course, the 100% electric car went down to Florida, so it's not pulling from the system. It's not the single cause of that. Matter of fact, I would guess maybe 10%, 15% of my electrical usage was for the electric car. It doesn't add a whole lot to your bill. Matter of fact, in the Florida house, I was using more electricity to run the pool pump before I got that replaced than I was to charge the car. So, you just got to look at everything. So for calendar year 2023 in the Illinois house again, the savings was about $1,760 for the entire calendar year. That's at about 16 cents per kilowatt hour. So if your electric rate is higher than that, your savings would be greater. Of course, if it's lower than that, your savings would be less. Quick reminders on the Illinois system, both systems actually. It's called a 10 kilowatt system. The Illinois one had a gross cost of $33,000, but because of state, federal, and even utility rebates, I was only net out of pocket about 13 grand. So if I can save something close to $2,000 a year, 6.5, 7 years for sure, the system pays for itself. If electric utility rates continue to increase, that time becomes even smaller. It is possible that 5 to 5.5 years after I put the panels in, they would pay for themselves. Theoretically, the system should last at least 25 years, and this is a pretty good number for the Midwest, because at that point in time, you're probably needing to replace your roof. I have not had panels removed and reapplied to a roof yet. I don't know, after 20, 25 years of use, if new panels would be so much more efficient that it would be reasonable to put new panels on. But if the original panels are still working at 80% of their original efficiency, and they're paid for, it might just make the most sense to just slap them back on the roof and you get what you get. But I haven't gotten to that point, but that's probably going to be the case. Anyway, if you have questions about anything in the show, especially solar panel, roof collections, electric cars, stuff like that, it's kind of my side hobby, of course, about investments in your portfolio, let me know. You can send me an email, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com. We're going to take a little break and then to go into all of the other action-packed items, so don't go anywhere.
We do not accept that there is a God or gods, personal or in nature, manifesting himself, herself, itself, or themselves in any way. We do not accept the idea of heaven, hell, perdition, purgatory, or any other of the stages reached by escalator going either up or down. We do not accept that there is any life after death. We do not accept miracles. We do not accept the idea of angels, spooks, goblins, gremlins, leprechauns, elves, or souls. We simply do not accept that anyone at any time was ever a prophet of God who did not exist or which did not exist. We do not accept any so-called holy books as guides to life, and that includes the Bible, the Torah, the Veda, the Koran, the Upanishads, the Awaspi, they invent them constantly. We don't care whether that book was written by anyone in history, in any age in history, whether that was written by Moses, Mary Baker Eddy, Paul, Joseph Smith, Mohammed, Gautama Buddha, or the fickle finger of fate.
The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any actions. It's time for another Church Money segment, a big fan favorite, and thank you for all of the people who send me kind emails about this. First of all, the basic idea is that if you are in a church for a funeral or a wedding or to vote or some other random reason, look around, particularly outside of the big hall, room, church, temple, steeple, chapel. Oh my God. I don't even know what to call the big room anymore. Yay me. Or maybe by the front door or where they would serve coffee and donuts or something for service. Some churches sometimes have a table out or a stack of documents that say something like financial numbers, budget, whatever, something like that. But if you see a bunch of columns with numbers on them, grab a copy. I mean, it's made available to the public, right? It's in a public space, particularly if you are compelled to go into this building to vote, and you send it to me and I'll go over it. And one of the other general ideas about this is that people think churches donate a lot of money to charities or to help feed the hungry or provide clothes or housing or reading or whatever it is churches allegedly do to help people. And so when Christians give 10%, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, they don't, to their church, that's doing a lot of good in the community. It's not. And so my outstanding challenge is to asking people to provide me information about a church that provides a lot of money, because every once in a while, a lot of money to people in need. And I'll say, well, send me a financial document that shows that. I've never gotten one. Most of them are 0, maybe 1 or 2 or 3% going to people in need. This might set the new record for the most going to public people that are in need, but I'm not sure. And I'll walk you through. So let's just do that. And by the way, when I say the best, it might be like 4 or 5% at most, if I'm being generous. So their overall budget, and I'll just say this is from show listener, friend, fan of the show, friend of the show, initials DH. And they know who they are. Thank you very much for this document. I don't know if I'm supposed to give all of the details, so I'm just going to say it's a Baptist church. Not that it matters, but it's a Baptist church. It's a smaller church. Its budget is just a skosh under $1.5 million. So they have 2 sources of income. They have contributions, and then they have Kingdom Vision contributions, whatever the fuck that is. And I'm going to read just from the column of budget numbers because they have month-to-date actual, year-to-date actual, and amount of budget remaining this year. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to give you top-level numbers for what was budgeted for the calendar year. The first section they have is called expenses, but it really should be like loan expense, whatever. Loan payment principal, $120,000. So in their budget, almost 10% of their budget is paying for a loan and interest on the loan. That's $36,000. They have another $2,000 for the Canaan Committee projects. No idea what that is, but it is interesting that a good 10% of their budget is paying for a loan. I found in the documents that were sent to me, thank you again, that they had greatly expanded their fellowship hall. Oh my God. Fellowship hall. Just say it. It's an easy word, hall. And that was like a $4 or $5 million project. So they're still paying for that, and it looks like they're going to be paying for it for years. Okay, so there's 10% of their budget. Next part is pastoral care, worship supplies, deacon ministry, pulpit, honoraria, conventions, reviews, special recognition, pastor resources, pastoral hospitality. Okay, very small amount with $14,000 of the budget. Christian education, Sunday school, Bible school, vacation Bible school, disciplinary training, audiovisuals, and Baptist courier. No idea what that is. That all totals up to about $44,000. And another category here called Family Life, special events, $4,000, league sports, Wednesday suppers, teenagers. I'm guessing that has something to do with teenagers, and it's teenagers. I don't know. Women's conference and bereavement committee. That's $30,000 in total. Music is $7,000, and here's children and youth preschool ministry, because you got to tell kids in preschool about your religion. Children's ministry. And then this next category, I don't know what it means, but it says Children's Ministry Trans. Oh, how nice, right? They're helping trans kids. I bet that's not what it is. Okay. Children's Camp Fee, Youth Youth Department Trans, AWANA, no idea. Young Adult Ministry, SAM Camp, $52,000. So, indoctrinating the kids, that's so important. There's, is this next category? Yeah. Mission education, men's ministry, homebound ministry, WMU, and a bunch of other letters. They don't spell out what the words are, just a bunch of acronyms. That's all total $15,000. Now, the next category, I don't know how to interpret exactly. My experience with churches and being on a church school board many years ago, I got a pretty good idea of what this is. And this is the only category where there's any chance that even a fraction of this money is going to help people in need. Unfortunately, the title of the category is mission support. So, as an example, they have international missions. Okay, that's just to spread the gospel in some other countries. I don't really see that as being helpful, and it's definitely not helping anyone in town. They have North American missions, they have community missions, and the community missions is $3,500. And again, that's not money helping anybody. That's for mission work. That is to promote this religion. Mission Partners Hispanic Ministry, Mission Support, Bamabas, I don't know what that is. Food pantry. Okay, now here we have something. Food pantry. That seems pretty straight up and easy for me to interpret as providing help to people. Well, I don't know where the food pantry is, but let's just assume it's in the town, give them the benefit of the doubt. And it is 1% of their total budget. So good on them. The next one, hammer and nails. I don't know if that's like fixing up people's houses and stuff, but okay, maybe it is. Another missionary support line, Christian learning. This is actually a big number here, 60,000. Cooperative program. I don't know what it is. And this is what's ambiguous. I don't know if that's helping people or not. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the cooperative program is. So I'm going to have to say maybe some of that helps people. Daily bread. Is that different than the food bank? Probably, but daily bread, I don't know. Baptist Association Benevolence Fund or Benevolence. Again, whatever they use that for. Scholarship Fund, and it's for camps. So they're helping to offset the cost of sending some kids to probably some Christian summer camps. So that's not helping out people in the community. Fall Festival, Gideon's, that sure as fuck ain't helping out. Women's Center, $4,000. Wow, $4,000. Clothes Closet, $400. So the things that I know, I'm gonna say the food pantry and the Women's Center, $20,000. That's 1.5%. Okay, you know what? Let's round it to 2%. If the cooperative program is doing something helpful to the people in the community, and I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what that means. It's too vague. But if I count half of that, and I think I'm being very generous here, this church could be 3% or even 3.5%, maybe 4% of its total budget going to actually helping people. I got more categories here, but I don't want to bore you to tears. Church administrative costs, postage, office supplies, professional fees, $30,000. I don't know what that is. Bank fees, $12,000. What in the hell are they doing that has bank fees? Natural gas, electricity, water, telephone, internet, garbage, insurance, $32,000, paper products, building and grounds, $170,000. And I thought at first that was maintenance, but then the one below it says church mowing materials and maintenance for another $52,000. Cemetery lawn maintenance, transportation of what, I don't know, golf carts, memorials, flowers, Christmas expenses, probably for decorations or something like that. All that church administration stuff is $500,000. So that's a third of the budget. Does not include wages. So then below that, of course, we have pastor, FICA, benefits, salary, housing, $88,000. So again, this is not a minister who's getting rich, but all those expenses are $88,000, and part of it's covering Social Security and benefits, insurance, and stuff like that, and the housing. So it's still, it's a nice chunk of change. Assistant pastor, worship pastor, minister of youth gets $52,000, and then they have organist, pianist, secretary makes $45,000. Nice gig for that person. Staff auto expenses, $10,000. Employee benefits. Oh, there's more benefits. Assistant, staff for Christmas, fill-in personnel, FICA expenses, which was listed up above. Maybe this is FICA for everybody else. So all those labor and labor-related costs, staff support they call it, is over $400,000. So again, another big chunk of the budget, and that's the whole budget. So the only part that I have even any chance is mission support category. And because they call it mission support, generally mission work in my mind doesn't do hardly anything to help people. So it's worst case 2%, best case, if I'm being really, really generous, up to 5% of their budget is helping people in need in the local area. So 5% at most of the money you give to this church helps people in need. This is probably the single best one, only because I don't know what this one major category cooperative program, if that is something else cool, then the amount going to people locally could be under 2%. So somewhere between 2 and 4% is my educated guess. If you happen to be in a church and see a budget document or something like this, feel free to send it in. And occasionally in the past, it's been a while now, I've had Christians complain to me that, this is not an accurate representation. And it may not be, because I'm not looking at all church budgets. I'm only looking at church budgets that some of you fuckers send me, which I love it. But then I tell that person that's complaining, cool, send me the budget for your church. And I never get anything. They don't go to a church to get the budget. They can't get the budget. I don't know. They don't follow up with me. They just tell me that I'm wrong, but never, ever send me anything that supports that a church could give 10%, let alone 20 or 30%. It's just not going to happen. And I know from my experience on a Missouri Synod Lutheran Church School board many years ago that very little of the money actually goes into the community, because I had access to the budgets in granular detail. And I'm pretty sure that church, the percentage was under 1%. I don't think it was 0, but it was pretty fucking low, because they were struggling because the town they were in was shrinking. Their membership was shrinking, and revenue from people going to the church was down. And of course, they weren't particularly financially strong. So that's another episode of church money.
You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show.
All right, you guys, it's time for a rant. So forgive me or thank me, depending on how you like the rant. U.S. medical insurance system fuckery. I just wasted 2 fucking hours of my life. And so I figured I would share it with you, at least in a summary form, so it doesn't take 2 hours for me to retell. But anyhow, so when I was at my doctor recently, I said, hey, I talked to a friend of mine who had this cute little sticker thing on the back of their arm, and so they could get a blood glucose reading every fucking minute. So I thought that would be a really cool way to get a whole lot of data to know exactly what foods change my blood sugar level, because when you get your A1C, it's for like 2 or 3 months of history. And I see my doctor every 3 months, and the A1C did or didn't move. And I did all this work, and I feel like I'm fucking doing a whole lot of work and giving up on a whole lot of sugary, fun, tasty things, and it's not making any fucking difference. And that's kind of pissing me off. So I thought something that gave me minute by minute readouts would be pretty cool. And she said, well, I can prescribe it, but I don't know if the insurance company will cover it without a pre-authorization. And I said, well, I don't want you to stop prescribing me something that could be helpful to my fucking life, my ability to live longer, because of your concern the insurance company might not approve it in advance. We don't want to filter that. So she gives me the prescription. All right, cool. That part was easy. I go to Walgreens, my pharmacy of choice for whatever reason, and they said, cool, but we're out. We'll get you one for tomorrow. They get me one for tomorrow. I put it on. Everything's cool. And then I realize it only works for 14 days, right? So that's okay, I guess, for 14 days. And it cost me $37.99. Now, I have $37.99, but for 14 days, that means that's going to be like $80 a month for a lot of people. And that's real money on something that could actually change your life or make you healthier or allow you to live longer. And the fact that someone might choose to not get this because they're out $40 really makes me fucking sad that probably happens all the time. Anywho, so then I flew from Orlando to Florida. Oh my God. I flew from Orlando, Florida to Chicago, and I'm getting ready to go on a trip that's going to be 2.5, 3 weeks long. And you're hearing about this after I'm done. And I'm not going to tell you about the trip because I haven't gone yet, but I'll tell you about it later. But I didn't want to do this for 2 weeks, the blood sugar thingy, and then not be able to check it anymore. I want another thing. And I knew that my prescription was for 6 units, and I only got one of them. And so I called the local pharmacy in the Chicagoland area, and they said, that's probably not going to work because you said you only got one, but the dispensing pharmacy said that you got a 28-day supply. So you probably won't get insurance approval to get another sensor or two because you just got 28-day supply 2 days ago. So I said, okay, so you guys, Walgreens, messed that up. Honest mistake. No big deal. Can you fix it? No, you have to talk to the dispensing pharmacy. So I had to call Walgreens in Florida. And they said, oh, yeah, you're right. We put that in wrong. It wasn't 28 days. It was just one sensor for 14 days, and we'll fix it. And I said, okay, now can you call the Walgreens in the Chicago suburbs? And they said, no, you have to call them. So, but before you call them, you should call your insurance to get pre-authorization for a vacation variance, a vacation exception for your sensor. Because even though we now have corrected it that you only have one sensor that's good for 14 days, they won't let you get it until the 14 days is up. And I'm thinking to myself, wait. Are you telling me I have to go into a Walgreens every 14 fucking days to get another one of these. I can't get even a month, let alone what I'd really like is 3 months, or I'll be really lazy. Give me a whole year's supply. I'll use these things. These are going to be fucking great. It's going to change my life. But no. So I called the insurance company. And after getting sent to the wrong place a couple of times, I finally get a hold of somebody and they say, oh, you have to talk to our third party company that does prescriptions for us. What? So they connect me to yet another person. Well, the first person connects me to a second person. And I talked to them and they said, well, after they double check all of my information. And of course, the computer says, put in your date of birth. Okay. Put in or speak aloud the member ID number. And this is where I get weirdly pedantic because I don't have a member ID. I have a member number. Whatever. Right? I can get over it. I give them all that. I finally, after punching 0 and yelling at the phone 4 or 5 times, I get to a person and they said, can you give me your date of birth, please? And so I give it to them. Can you give me your ID number? I give them my member number, which is apparently the same thing. And I said, hey, now here's a question. And I'm just, yeah, this is not you, right? But the system. I put in all that information already because the computer forced me to do it. Did you not get any of that? Because that would help you and me both save time. And they said, oh my God, tell me about it. Okay. So anyway, so I talked to this person at the third party company that works for my insurance company to do prescriptions. And I said, hey, I'm going on a vacation. Can I get a second fucking sensor for 14 days? I didn't say fucking on the phone with this nice person who was trying to help me, but I'm feeling it now. And they said, oh, I can't even request a vacation override because your prescription has not even been approved. Wait, what? I already picked up one of these things at the pharmacy. What do these things cost normally? And they said, we don't know. Could be hundreds of dollars. That's not in our system. My system says that we see that you have a prescription, but it's not been approved because you need some kind of override. And I go, what do you mean? They said, we need permission, so we have to send a paperwork to the insurance company, and the insurance company sends it to your doctor to get approval. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm really confused here because isn't that what the prescription is? And she said, no, the prescription is the doctor saying they want you to have something, but it doesn't mean the insurance company wants to pay it. Now, I don't know about you. Plus or minus, some of this is my own fault or problems, whatever. Because I have a business and I don't work for somebody other than myself, I don't get the discount of being in a insurance pool or collective or group. It's just me and my wife. I pay almost $3,000 a month for health insurance. Now, before you tell me it could be cheaper, I get it. I have a high-priced plan on purpose because it's tax deductible. We can have that discussion another time. I think it's in my best interest, but whatever. It's a lot of fucking money that I'm paying $3,000 to them, and they have to go through some hoops and jumps. And I'm thinking, wow, how much are these things gonna be? And the third party, a prescription person that works for the company that works for my insurance company says, no, you haven't even gotten the first one yet, or at least not through the insurance company. So I'm like, I'm confused. Then how do I have one? And so she says, well, let me call the pharmacy and maybe they used Good RX, which apparently I need to investigate the Good RX because my insurance company ain't doing shit for me. Right. So, okay. So I'm on hold for like 25 minutes. And while I'm on hold, I get a call from the Walgreens pharmacy in Florida calling me. Well, I pick up their call and put the other call with the insurance person on hold where I was already on hold. And I talked to the person from Florida, and they said, Mr. Ferguson, I've been on the phone for almost half an hour with this lady from this insurance company representative, and we have reached an impasse, and I wanted to call and let you know about it. And I said, well, I actually have that person on hold on my phone on the other line, but please do tell me what happened. And the insurance company told them that it doesn't count and it's not covered. And he said, well, I don't know what you're talking about because I put it into the system and it came up $37.99, which apparently is a reasonable price for this device. And so they sold it to me. And the insurance person said, you shouldn't be doing that. And they said, well, hang on. And they put it in and it says they could sell me another one. And so the guy at the insurance or at the Walgreens in Florida said, if you were here in Florida, you could come into the store. I could sell you another one right now for $37.99. I'm like, well, fuck me, because I'm not in Florida. So I thank him for his efforts. I talked to the insurance person, tried to get them off the phone. They were very nice. They were trying really hard, but it was very, very frustrating. And finally, they did find the price. Apparently, if I buy this just cash, like I just show up to the Walgreens with my prescription and say, give me, it's something like $81. And I'm thinking, no, wait a minute. My insurance company is fighting with a potentially life-saving medical device because they want to save $40 and I'm paying $3,000 a month. I'm out of my mind, right? So I get off the phone with the insurance person and I drive up to the Chicago suburbs Walgreens that I'm nearby, and I go in there and I'm starting to tell the pharmacist what's going on, and she goes, well, let me just look it up and see if I can what price you'd have to pay. Okay, fine. I wanted to share my whole story with her, but there was merit to what she said, and she puts it in and she goes, it's $37.99. Do you want one at $37.99? I'm like, I can just say yes and just get it and walk away right now and have what I want. And she says, yes, if you want, while you're here, you could get 2 of them. And I said, well, while I'm here, can I get 5 of them? Because my prescription was for 6 and I've only picked up 1 so far. Can I get the other 5? And she goes, let me look. So she goes over to the shelf and she comes back with 4 of them. And she goes, I only have 4 in stock. You'd clean me out. And that's okay. We'll get more tomorrow. Do you want to buy 4 of them? And I said, do I want to buy 4 of them at the $37.99 versus $81? And there's some kind of glitch in the matrix and I get this lower price even though the insurance company says I don't and I'm not even fucking approved? Yes. So I bought 4 of them. During this whole process, I learned that the reason the insurance company is debating it is that the doctor and me, the patient, should be doing other things first, and or the doctor has to certify that I need this, like as an example. Just one possible example. I lack the ability to prick myself. I lack the ability to take my own blood sugar reading. I don't lack that ability, but I can't do it every fucking minute, day and night, even while I'm sleeping, like this device can. Because one of the problems I have is that if I don't eat before bed for like 4, 5, 6 hours, and then I sleep for 8 hours, I wake up and my blood sugar is too high. Well, I didn't even eat anything. And apparently in some type 2 diabetic people, if you go too long without eating and your blood sugar gets too low, your pancreas apparently freaks out. I think it's the pancreas. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Some part of your body freaks out. Your blood sugar is too low, rightfully so, and it kicks in and starts putting more blood or more sugar back in your bloodstream, even though you don't actually need it, and then it doesn't know when to stop. So one of the tricks, apparently, for me might be, I should eat a snack right before I go to bed. What the fuck is that? So my overall blood sugar might be... So this is the kind of thing that I can figure out and learn by having this device. But I'm still pissed off that I have to, at some point... Oh, so I buy the 4 of them, and then the pharmacist says, oh, I see why you can buy them for $37.99 because they're on sale. What do you mean they're on sale? Oh, your insurance says that you have to pay $50 and that you could buy these for cash for $81. So they're only helping me by $30, the insurance company, if they even have fucking approved it. But it's $37.99 right now because it's on sale from Abbott, the manufacturer of Freestyle Libre 3. And I said, so what, did they have just a teeny little bit of guilt overcharging me $80 for something they can obviously sell for $37.99 and make a profit? And she goes, yeah, probably something like that. So, like I said, I bought the 4. I have the 4. I'm good for now. Not covered by insurance at this point at all. I don't know if it'll be covered in the future. So the question for me will be, is over the next 3 months, can I learn enough information to help reduce my blood sugar to a more normal person, non-diabetic level, which is healthier for me and might extend my life? Or do I at some point afterwards have to just cough up $81 or spend hours and hours on the phone arguing with people about getting 30 fucking bucks from them? Anyway, that's the rant. Did not think it would take this long. My apologies. But yeah, so I have 5 of them now, the one on my arm and 4 more in boxes. So I'm good for 2.5 months. And maybe at some point I'll go get the 6th unit out of my prescription for 6. I always want to say subscription, but it's prescription. Yeah. But that's the rant. Again, take a quick break and go on with something else.
You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show.
We do not accept that there is now or has ever been a holy person, and that includes everyone from Mother Teresa to Moses to Jesus Christ. We call him JC. Mohammed, his daughter Fatima, the angel Moroni, the Pope, any Pope, all of the popes, any oracles, self-appointed or appointed by other persons, or elected by strange men in long red dresses. We do not accept that there is any efficacy in prayer. And we don't care whether they're said by your legislator, George Bush, yourself, myself, a priest, a rabbi, a minister, a guru, or even your mama. Atheists see all of this, first, as being totally subjective and going on only in your little heads, nowhere else. And secondly, we see it basically as simply being silly. We don't hate you. We think you're quite odd. But these are all very ancient, outmoded fables, and we no longer need to cling to them in our modern world. The most difficult thing in the world to do is to live in it. Just to get along with other people, to earn a living, to meet our basic needs. And we do not need encumbered by all of these ideas which bring you a sense of guilt, a sense of inadequacy, of impotence. We need a decent, modern, sophisticated, workable set of standards by which we can get along with ourselves and others.
The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any actions. The investing skeptically topic is long-term care insurance. This is something that you pay in a whole lot of money, and what it will do is it will pay for your nursing home, sometimes other things, sometimes prescriptions, sometimes in-home care, sometimes not. Every policy is unique. Every policy is different. And whether you should have it or not is a very, very complicated, unfortunately, very, very complicated question. And so I recently had someone come to me and say they have been approached with the possibility of getting long-term care insurance, and they are in their mid-50s, which is a very common age, and they were told if they paid $15,000 a year, this long-term care would pay up to $8,000 a month if they're in a nursing home. And they wanted to know if that was a good investment. I don't like the word investment used in that context. Is it good insurance? That's an interesting thing to think about. And I say no. So there's the short answer. Now, if you want the long answer, that's what we're going to do. The first thing to keep in mind is this $15,000. It was only for 10 years. So they would pay. I'm not really sure I like the word invest, but 15,000 times 10, $150,000. During that same time frame, going from mid-50s to mid-60s, if instead they had invested it in the market and if they made 10% per year, which of course is always a gamble, but that's the long-term norm, that money would not be $150,000, it would be $262,000. A very, very small percentage of the population is in a nursing home at the age of 65. That is not the norm. Matter of fact, the average age of entry in a nursing home is about 78. But let's be reasonably, conservative in our calculation, and let's say that this couple wants to go in or ends up going in at 75. So if they start with this money at 55 and they wait until 75, if instead of buying the insurance, they had invested this money for the 20 plus years, they would now have around $750,000. So with $750,000, you could pay for the long-term care yourself, even at $8,000 a month. Now, the policy that they were talking about says up to $8,000 a month. And there's all kinds of caveats and exceptions with these policies. So keep in mind, our reference point is that at the time you would expect to go into a nursing home, you might have $750,000, maybe even $1 million if you were able to wait a few more years with this money, and you could pay that yourself. And the question is now, what if I live a long time in the nursing home? What are the odds and probabilities of that? The first thing I found that was interesting, and I got this from many, many places. I got information from cdc.gov. Morningstar.com had excellent articles on long-term care. And another website that is, I'll just spell it out for you, GERIPAL.org. Many other sites, but you can check a few of these. That's part of the science-based investing. You can go double-check. One of the things I found interesting is 9%, this is from Morningstar, 9% of people that buy long-term care let their policy lapse within the first year. So you've paid for a few months or you've paid for the entire year and you don't pay any more. That money is gone. So in this case, my theoretical question, if they paid $15,000 for the first year, then they could just let the policy lapse and they'd be out $15,000. I was not able to find numbers about what happens in the second, third, fourth, or fifth year. I'm assuming there are people who will lapse after paying for 1 year. Every policy is different. I don't know what those numbers are, but let's say it's another 10, 20, 30% over a decade. So a good portion of people will pay money in and end up getting nothing because they failed to continue paying. So with long-term care insurance, just like your auto insurance, if you stop paying, you lose the benefit. You must keep paying in unless you pay a flat amount up front. So a large percentage of people will discontinue the payments and they'll end up getting nothing. Now, a little bit of a personal story. My parents paid $3,000, then $4,000, then $5,000, then $6,000 a year on long-term care insurance. And this was a policy that was guaranteed to never go up, but it did. Because somewhere in the 72-page prospectus, it said it'll never go up unless these couple of certain things happen. And those things happened. So now the policies went up and up and up. And when my dad finally got ill in his last days, went into a nursing home, not a penny of it was covered. Now, the reason nothing was covered in his case, and for a lot of people, is often these policies will have a disclaimer or a waiting period where the first 60 and often 90 days, they will pay nothing because it's not short-term care insurance, it's long-term care insurance. So for the first 90 days, they will likely pay absolutely nothing. No matter how much you spend and no matter how much you paid in, you will get nothing during the first 90 days. That is your deductible. The other thing that's curious is that I was looking at data for how long does the average person stay in nursing homes, and I got two very different numbers. One was 2.5 years, and the other one was 14 months, 1 year and 2 months. And I finally tracked down the source of the 2.5 years. And the 2.5 years was when they went in and surveyed people in a nursing home and asked them how long have they been there. The people in a nursing home have been there on average 2.5 years. And forgive me for being a little bit morbid, but this whole category, this whole subject is kind of about death and long-term care. When you survey the people in the nursing home, you are only surveying the people that are currently alive. So someone that checked in 6 months ago and died 5 months ago cannot answer your survey to tell you they only were there for 5 months. They are dead and cannot take the survey. If you look at everyone that enters a nursing home and then calculate how long they live, it is 14 months. But insurance companies do not give you that number. They give you the bigger number because it sounds like you're going to spend more money. Another thing that is fascinating is that the vast majority of people, and I don't know about vast majority, I'll just give you the number, 65% of people that check into a nursing home die within the first year. And I even found some statistics that said 50 or even 53% die within the first 6 months. I found a website that showed that 27% of people use their long-term care insurance. The other 73% do not. So you have a 73% probability of never using your long-term care insurance, either because you never went to a nursing home, or you did and you were there less than 90 days, because it happens. Remember, if 53% die in the first 6 months, a good portion of them die within the first 3 months, and you will get nothing. That was the case with my father. He was in for a few days. They paid nothing, even though he had paid, something close to $110,000 for this insurance. It never paid out because he didn't qualify. And that's how it works. But the mean length of stay is 5 months. Now, of course, if you stay for a very long time, the insurance could pay out. But many of these policies have a limit to how long they will pay. It sometimes is 2 years, sometimes is 3 years. You have to read all of the details. And it could be, if there's a 2 or 3 or even a 5-year limit, that you could have easily paid that amount with the $750,000, the $750,000 that you had saved because of your investing instead of buying the insurance. Also, of course, remember, if 73% of the population never uses this insurance, you can just pass on the $750,000 to the charity of your choice, to your spouse, or to your kids. Whatever your choice is, that's your money, instead of it being just gone. Like I said, the average age of going into a nursing home is about 78. The average age of death is give or take around 80. I was not able to find very precise numbers, but I was able to find age ranges. So that gives you some good ideas of how all that works. In nursing homes, currently there's about 1.4 million people. And depending on the policy, sometimes they will not cover at-home care or hospice care. Hospice care may be something that you choose to do when you've gotten so ill that you decide that you no longer want aggressive treatment of any kind and that you just want to die in peace. Whether it's in a hospice or home, some policies will not cover that. So you've spent all this money and you get no benefit from it. I did notice that companies or websites that sell long-term care insurance, they often have a number that says 70% of people will need some long-term care. Well, their definition is different than what qualifies for the payout of 27.3%. And I'll give you examples. Several years ago, my mom got knee surgery. She spent a couple of days in the hospital, but then no longer needed the level of care that a hospital can provide, so she went to a nursing home where it's more affordable to get supervised care. She was there for only a couple of days, but according to this other number, that counts as needing some kind of long-term care because she spent a few days in a nursing home, but because of the 90-day deductible, she would get no benefit from her policy. And the other interesting thing is, like I said, my parents did have these policies. After my father passed away, my mom got in the mail a notice that not only was her rate going up 15% for next year, but she was no longer going to be able to enjoy the multi-policy discount of 25%, and it was going up an additional 25% because now there was only one person. So that was kind of a very rude and inconsiderate slap in the face, if you ask me. But faced with the 40% increase and the fact that Dad's policy didn't pay out a dime after putting in over $100,000, we decided to discontinue it. If you currently have long-term care insurance, look at it really, really hard. It is very difficult to cancel something now that you've paid in 10, 15, 20 years because the psychology is maybe I only pay in 2 or 3 more years. So don't cancel it without doing some serious thought. Also, in the past, long-term care insurance policies were better. It still may not be a good deal for you, but don't cancel it because of the things that I'm talking about here. I am talking about buying new long-term care insurance. There's a lot of reasons not to buy it. I recently had someone tell me, well, this person said this person said to buy it and this person said not to buy it. And I gave them the same answer I give people when I talk about annuities. If you find somebody that tells you to buy long-term care insurance that is not in some way paid by the industry to tell you to buy long-term care insurance, then we can have a conversation about whether it's a good deal or not. But now you have some of the numbers that can help you understand. So in this situation, this couple could have $750,000 if they go in somewhere around the average age, or they could have $0 and have long-term care insurance that there is only a 27% chance that they will use at all. And sadly, the average mortality rate in the first year is 65%, and it's 50 to 53% in the first 6 months. Another thing that I found very, very fascinating, and this was surprising and counterintuitive to me, if you are in the highest quartile of net worth, so you're in the top 25%, the probability is that you will live 6 months less in a nursing home than the average. Keeping in mind that the average is 14 months, you will live 6 months less than those in the lowest quartile. So not necessarily you live 6 months less than 14, but the average might be 12 or 11. At first, this seemed counterintuitive to me, but what causes this or what could drive this is the fact that if you have assets, you have wealth, you probably have a very nice house, you can probably stay in your house much longer and simply have a nurse visit you and check up on you. You probably, because you're in a better situation, have more family that has income. They can help you. They can take time off. They can visit you. They can take care of you. So when you finally do go to a nursing home, you are probably worse off and really, really got to the point there's no other options for you. So the amazing thing is the people who can afford long-term care insurance, which can be $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, and for this couple, $15,000 a year. The people who can most afford long-term care insurance are the people who are actually the least likely to use it. So that kind of gives you in a nutshell some of my thoughts about this process. If you have specific questions, you of course can contact me via email, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com, and that will wrap up our Investing Skeptically or Science-Based Investing section. Thank you so much for being here and listening to The Phil Ferguson Show. If you can, go leave a 5-star review somewhere for the show. I'd appreciate that. Or share it with a friend that needs to learn more about investments, or maybe needs to learn more about religion and help them get out. So those are the driving factors for me in doing this show. I want to help people with those two main categories. Hopefully you learned something from the show, and as I probably mentioned in the ranting segment on diabetes type 2 and the sensor thing, I mentioned that I was out traveling, and even as I'm recording this end segment, I have not yet left, so I don't have the details, but hopefully in the next episode I will go over some of our adventure and what has happened. Hopefully all of it fantastic and good travel stories. But I do appreciate you listening to the show. And soon I'll have an update on the contributions to the Secular Student Alliance, because that by the time you're hearing this, that has ended. We will be going, my wife and I, to BajaCon. It is in Canada, in the part of Canada just over the border from Detroit area, north of Detroit. So if you have time, go check that out and see if you can fit that into your schedule, if it's not sold out already, because they do have a cap on it. I will also be at the FFRF convention. I believe that's in Denver this year, and my wife will be with me there, and she will also be with me at CSICon, the Center for Inquiry Conference in Vegas this fall, early winter, fall. So check those out, and if you go to one of those things and you see me, please feel free to come up and say hello, introduce yourself, and until then, ciao.